Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and the June 2023 edition of Archaeology News, where I, Rachel, an archaeologist, cover all the latest interesting things going on in the world of archaeology. This show presents stories from all over the world, including discoveries, current events, and entertainment. All the links to further details on the stories mentioned today will be in the description box below if you would like more information on them. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're interested in learning more about real-life archaeologists and our discoveries. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up to tell the YouTube algorithm to promote it to other people. I spend the equivalent of a workday writing, filming, and editing my videos, so you taking a few seconds to subscribe or like helps support me keeping the channel going. Okay guys, let's dig in. We have 9 stories today in our Top Discoveries segment. They are presented in chronological order, starting with 57,000-year-old Neanderthal cave drawings in France and going up to the discovery of a 1,200-year-old Mayan city in Mexico. Our first story is from France, where researchers have published a report on Neanderthal engravings in a cave wall at La Roche-Cotard, which were made more than 57,000 years ago. The cave was first discovered in 1846. Excavations in 1912 recovered animal bones and Neanderthal stone tools, but it took more extensive digging in the 1970s and then from 2008 onwards to reveal its full extent of 4 connecting chambers that reached 33 meters deep. Neanderthals appear to have lived in the first chamber and in front of the cave entrance. The engravings of faint stripes, dots, and wavy lines, patterns known as finger flutings, were spotted in the third chamber. Analysis of the sediments around the entrance revealed that the cave was effectively sealed from the outside at least 57,000 years ago. This, along with the tools, suggests that the markings could only have been made by Neanderthals, who occupied Europe long before Homo sapiens reached the area. Previous evidence for Neanderthal engravings is patchy and largely confined to marks scratched into bones, meaning that this discovery is now the oldest known occurrence of engravings made by Neanderthals. Next, we go to Laos in Southeast Asia, where the latest evidence from Ttämpälin Cave has demonstrated that modern humans spread from Africa through Arabia and to Asia much earlier than previously thought. The site is an upland cave located more than 300 kilometers from the sea. The latest evidence comprises a piece of human frontal skull bone and tibial bones from the deepest layers of the cave. When it came to dating the fragments, traditional methods were not allowed to be used as the fossils are protected by Laotian law. There are very few animal bones or suitable cave decorations that were available for dating, and it was also far too old for radiocarbon dating. The team overcame this by creatively applying strategic dating techniques, including luminescence dating of sediments and uranium series dating of a stalactite tip and 2 rare but complete bovid teeth. The team supported the dating evidence with a detailed micromorphological analysis of the sediments to assess the origin of the fossils. These techniques returned a minimum age of 46,000 years, a chronology in line with the expected timing of Homo sapiens' arrival in Southeast Asia. On top of this, additional excavations from 2010 to 2023 revealed increasingly more evidence that Homo sapiens had passed through here en route to Australia. 7 pieces of human skeleton were found at intervals through 4.5 meters of sediment, pushing the potential timeline far back into the realms of the earliest Homo sapiens migrations to this region. The new chronology revealed there had been a human presence in this area for more than 56,000 years. Furthermore, the age of the lowest fossil at 7 meters provides a timeline for modern human arrival in this region of between 86,000 to 68,000 years ago. This pushes back the arrival time in mainland Southeast Asia by approximately 40,000 years. We now leave the Paleolithic and head into the Mesolithic period in Israel, where archaeologists have unearthed a collection of 12,000-year-old flutes carved out of bird bones. The site of INAH was once occupied by the Natufians, a cultural group that was the last hunter-gatherers in the land around the eastern Mediterranean. Although the site has been extensively investigated since the 1950s, last year archaeologists were surprised to find over a half-dozen flutes scattered among a stockpile of bird bones. Carved out of the bones of small waterfowl, only one was completely intact, measuring less than 65 millimeters long. Residues of ochre mean that they were probably painted red, and examination of the use-wear patterns revealed that they might have been attached to string and worn. When played, the flutes created a high-pitched sound similar to those made by Eurasian sparrowhawks and common kestrels. The researchers created a replica flute using computer software and measured the spectral analysis of the sounds until the instruments produced ones similar to falcon calls. Archaeologists think the flutes were used while hunting, to create music, or even to communicate with the birds. The Natufians valued birds, as can be seen in the numerous ornaments crafted out of talons that have been discovered at the site. These artifacts are really important because they're the only sound instruments clearly identified in the prehistory of the whole Levant, and the oldest sound instruments imitating bird calls in the world. Now we come to the Netherlands, where Dutch archaeologists have unearthed an approximately 4,000-year-old religious site which has been nicknamed the Stonehenge of the Netherlands. Located near the town of Tiel, this site contains 3 burial mounds, one of which contained the remains of approximately 60 men, women, and children. Excavations started in 2017, and the 3 burial mounds were eventually found a few miles from the banks of the Wal River. The main mound is around 20 meters in diameter, and its passages are lined up to serve as a solar calendar, which would have been used to determine important dates, including festival and harvest days. Together, the mounds were used as burial sites for around 800 years, from 2500 to 1200 BCE. One of the graves contained a fascinating discovery of a single glass bead. Analysis showed it originated in Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq. At this time, glass was not made in the Netherlands, which means it was probably a treasured object. Despite the site's nickname, no stone monuments remain. It was built entirely in wood, which decomposed long ago. Local museums in Tiel will display some of the Bronze Age grave artifacts from the site. Nearby, another find made the rounds on the major news cycle when archaeologists in Germany unearthed a unique sword from a Bronze Age burial. The weapon is so well preserved that it still gleams. Dated to the end of the 14th century BCE, the 3,000-year-old sword was discovered in the town of Nordlingen in Bavaria, in the burial of a man, woman, and child. It appears that the trio were buried in quick succession, but at this point in time, it's unclear if they were related to one another. The weapon has an ornate octagonal hilt and was crafted from bronze. Only skilled smiths could make octagonal swords. However, the blade doesn't have any visible cut marks or signs of wear, suggesting it had a ceremonial or symbolic purpose. Sword discoveries from this time and region are rare, as many Middle Bronze Age graves have been looted. Going now to the island of Kythnos in Greece, archaeologists have discovered more than 2,000 intact votive offerings at the seaside site of Vyrokastros, the ancient capital of the island, which was inhabited continuously from the 12th century BCE to the 7th century CE. The offerings were discovered at the scant ruins of 2 small temples and consisted of intact or almost complete clay figurines, mostly of women and children, but also some male actors, as well as tortoises, lions, pigs, and birds. The excavation also found luxury pottery imported from other parts of Greece, ornate lamps, and fragments of ritual vases used in the worship of Demeter and Persephone at Eleusis, an ancient Athenian suburb. It is unclear how closely the site on Kythnos was linked to the sanctuary of Eleusis, which is known to have owned land on the island. The excavations are set to continue through 2025 and will hopefully yield more exciting discoveries. Heading north, our next story is from London, where archaeologists have discovered a first-of-its-kind Roman mausoleum at the Liberty of Southwark development site. The site first came to public attention in February 2022, when some of the largest Roman mosaics found in London for over 50 years were found there as well. The remains of the mausoleum include walls and interior flooring. At its center is a striking mosaic surrounded by a raised platform on which the burials were placed. The lowest entrance steps to the structure also survive. The level of preservation makes this the most intact Roman mausoleum ever discovered in Britain. It would have been used by wealthier members of Roman society as either a family tomb or perhaps as part of a burial club, where members would have paid a monthly fee to be buried inside. A reconstruction showing how it might have looked in antiquity has also been produced. The site is being redeveloped as a complex of offices, homes, and shops that is a joint venture by Landsec and Transport for London, who have committed to restoring and retaining the mausoleum within the permanent scheme for public display and enjoyment. Our next story was also a big hit in the headlines and comes from Italy. During new excavations of the Reggio 9 district of Pompeii, archaeologists discovered a fresco that appears to depict a round flatbread on a silver tray, which has an uncanny resemblance to pizza. It was found in the hall of a house next to a bakery, and the skeletons of 3 people were also found near the oven in the working areas of the home. While it looks similar to pizza, it lacks the classic ingredients of tomato and mozzarella, so technically you wouldn't really consider it one. Experts say the bread would have been seasoned with spices or a Roman herb cheese spread. Depicted next to it is a goblet of wine, along with dried fruit, dates, pomegranate, and a garland of yellow flowers. The fresco is thought to have been inspired by the Greek hospitality ritual of xenia, representing gifts that were offered to guests as a part of the tradition. Such images were widespread in the homes of ancient Pompeii and Herculaneum. However, the inclusion of the flatbread is unusual. It should also be noted that Pompeii is located only 23 kilometers from the city of Naples, the modern-day home of the UNESCO-protected Italian pizza. Our last discovery for today brings us across the Atlantic to the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, where the remains of an ancient Maya city have been found deep in the jungle. The discovery was the result of field work aimed at documenting the archaeology of the central Maya lowlands, an area spanning some 300 square kilometers of uninhabited jungle. Airborne laser scanning helped the research team spot numerous concentrations of pre-Hispanic structures. Upon investigating the site, archaeologists were surprised to discover an elevated terrain surrounded by wetlands, upon which several large buildings were built, including a number of pyramid-shaped ones measuring more than 15 meters in height. They also found pottery which indicated the site was inhabited between 600 and 800 CE, a period known as the Late Classic. The city has been named Ocumtan, Mayan for stone column, after cylindrical stone columns found at the site, which were probably entrances to rooms in the upper parts of the buildings. It is thought that the site would have served as an important regional center before falling victim to the collapse of the lowland Maya civilization in the 10th century CE. That's it for our top discoveries today. Now we're going to move on to current news and events. Our first news story comes from Rome, an ancient temple complex where, according to legend, Julius Caesar was assassinated, has now been opened to the public for the first time. The sacred area at Largo Argentina Square contains 4 temples dating back to the 3rd century BCE, as well as the remains of Pompey's Theater, where the Roman dictator is believed to have been stabbed to death by disgruntled senators in 44 BCE, shortly after his lifetime appointment as dictator of Rome. The temples and theater were rediscovered in 1927, and the site has now been opened after a development project funded by Bulgari and overseen by Rome's Superintendency of Cultural Heritage. Visitors can wander through the site on a walkway to view the ruins up close. The site is also known for being home to dozens of stray cats, which are perhaps also a popular attraction to the site. Also in Rome, a tourist was captured on video in late June, carving the name of himself and his girlfriend into the Roman Colosseum. A fellow tourist took a video of the incident and admonished him. In response, he smiled and kept going. The video was then released online to much uproar. Based on the fact that he left his name and date of visit, the Italian police were able to trace the tourist first to his Airbnb in the city and then to where he lives in England. And he has now been charged with vandalism, with a potential penalty of between 2 and 5 years in prison and a fine of up to 15,000 euros. In an attempt to avoid prison, he has released a letter of apology, claiming that he didn't know how old the monument was when he vandalized it. Really? Personally, I find this really difficult to believe that he didn't know this, since the Colosseum is one of the most famous historical sites and attractions in the city. It seems to me he's probably just sorry that he got caught and is trying to mitigate his sentence. Just goes to show that if you're going to be going to ancient sites, just take your photos, take a tour, see the place, and move on. There is no need to pull stupid stunts like this for internet, or maybe in this case, relationship points. Clearly, you will be caught and made an example of. Next we go to the Louvre Museum in the heart of Paris. which has announced its temporary custody of 16 medieval antiquities that were secretly evacuated from Ukraine during the ongoing Russian invasion. The works come from the Kanenko Museum, which sustained damages from a Russian missile strike in last October, prompting increased safety measures to protect its cultural objects from Russian attacks as well as looting and illegal trade. 5 of the works will be featured in the At the Origins of the Sacred Image exhibition. Over 250 Ukrainian cultural sites have been damaged since the war began in February 2022, according to UNESCO estimates. Ukraine's government has reported over 500 incidents of damaged and destroyed objects of cultural value. The objects currently in the custody of the Louvre will return to the Kanenko Museum at the end of the war. Our last news story today is an interesting case in northwestern France which has drummed up some serious anger over claims of prehistoric stones being destroyed during the building of a DIY store. The initial claim was made by one man, referenced as a local amateur archaeologist, who broke news of the destruction of 39 standing stones that he claimed were around 7,000 years old. Other journalists quickly picked up on this clear case of rage bait and ran with it without doing much further investigation of his claims. Responses from the mayor saying that due process was followed and the stones in question had been determined to be of low archaeological value caused further uproar, leading to allegations of corruption and retaliatory vandalism of a local church. I came across a story on Reddit where there were lots of armchair experts claiming that irreplaceable history has been destroyed and how much of a travesty the situation is. It should be a wake-up call for protecting archaeology, blah, 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 blah. YouTube channel The Prehistory Guys have done a really great video on examining the initial claims, which I have linked here, but I will give you some of the short details now. First, anyone getting upset about sites being destroyed for development is clearly not aware that A, archaeology itself is a destructive process wherein sites are destroyed in the physical act of excavation and they are recreated in the paper records via photographs, drawings, etc. And B, sites are excavated and removed for development all the time. In the UK, development projects like this are actually the main source of archaeological discoveries in the country. Going back to this particular story, the photos used in the news articles are not of the actual stones they are talking about. They are using images of much nicer and better looking stones from around 7 kilometers away. These are the stones they are talking about. If the journalists had used the phones of the actual stones, I very much doubt that this story would have gotten the amount of rage, clicks, and engagement that it did. The stones and the site in question were surveyed and excavated in 2015 by regional archaeologists, who found that the stones are most likely not in their original positions, and there were not any associated intact archaeological deposits at the site or in the area. At best, it seems that the stones were moved and repurposed as a part of a dry stone boundary wall for a field at some point in history. This was determined because they were sitting on top of the ground, not buried in it. Because they were not in their original spots, there is no way to determine if they were part of a prehistoric standing stone site or alignment. You can't really learn anything else useful from them. So yeah, that means they are of low archaeological value. Clearly, the only person who thinks they are valuable is this one local person who broke the news story and is not backed up by any other archaeologists, at least as far as I could find. So put down your pitchforks and go get angry about something else. That is the end of our current news segment. We will close our program today talking about archaeology and entertainment/pop culture. A quick note to start that Season 4 of The Great British Dig has officially started airing on Channel 4 in Britain. It is a factual television program about community archaeology, presented by a comedian along with 3 archaeology experts, where each episode sees the team arrive in a local community and knock on people's doors to ask if they can dig in their gardens and shared spaces. Last, but certainly not least, at the end of June, the 5th and final Indiana Jones film was released in cinemas worldwide. I went to go see Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny on opening night in the UK. You can watch my review of it and the other films in the series here. Broadly speaking, I enjoyed it, although I did find it a little long, and I thought it was a good send-off for the character. I also may or may not make an appearance in the film as an extra, so make sure to check out my videos on it. Alright everyone, that's everything for the June edition of Archaeology News. What was your favorite story from this month? Is there anything that I missed? Let me know in the comments down below. If you have any stories you think should be featured on next month's show, feel free to send them to me via DM on Instagram. Don't forget to support me with a like or subscribe before you go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Can you say bye? No. She was screaming to be in the video, so I just thought I'd bring her in just for the very end. Bye-bye.